Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. The quiet room suddenly formed a strange invisible fluctuation the moment Xiao Yan opened his eyes. This ripple slowly spread. Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air as his hands suddenly moved. Numerous strange hand seals appeared. His hands danced and even formed after images. Following the changes of his hand seals, an invisible spiritual strength began to agglomerate on his palm in a lightning-like manner. Within the blink of an eye, it formed an invisible palm print. Xiao Yang flicked his finger the moment the palm print was formed, and it scattered. Immediately, the seals formed by his hands continued to change. Soon after, two even more complicated palm prints appeared. 3 different palm prints appeared one after another in Xiao Yang's hands with great perfection. One could not find any flaws during the formation of the seals. This degree of familiarity was not weaker than what Cao Ying had displayed back then. The 3 spiritual prints surfaced before they were scattered by Xiao Yang. A mouthful of turbid air was also spat out of his mouth. A faint fluorescent light was lifted on Xiao Yang's face as the turbid air was spat out. It appeared just like warm jade before swiftly disappearing. His body moved, and he leaped down from the bed. After which, his body stood erect on the ground with his eyes shut. Xiao Yang shut his eyes for a moment before suddenly opening them. There was a faint joy within his eyes, because he had discovered that the spiritual aura permeating his soul had become fuller than before without him realizing it. He could even vaguely sense a slight clogging feeling within his soul. Could this be that soul state barrier? Xiao Yang pondered the thought. His intuition told him that the moment he passed through this clogging feeling, his soul would definitely step into the so-called soul state. At that time, he would finally become a true alchemist guru. It's soon. A smile surfaced on Xiao Yang's face. Based on this level, he had the confidence to truly break through the barrier. Xiao Yang smiled in his heart and arranged his clothes. After which, he pushed the door and exited the room. His gaze swept around and arrived on the little fairy doctor, who was seated cross-legged outside of his door. Due to what had occurred before, she had become afraid of being too far from Xiao Yang. Even though they were in the pill tower, she continued to remain guard in this place when Xiao Yang entered his training state. The little fairy doctor swiftly opened her eyes when Xiao Yang pushed open the door. She turned her head and only sighed in relief after seeing that it was Xiao Yang. After which, she asked with a soft smile, "Are you done training?" The little fairy doctor rolled her bright eyes when she finished speak. They finally paused on Xiao Yang's face. Xiao Yang involuntarily let out a bitter laugh when he heard the news. He said, "I am not on familiar terms with her, what great thing can we have? Moreover, that woman is also not an ordinary person. I do not wish to be close to her." The little fairy doctor nodded in satisfaction, after hearing Xiao Yang put it this way. She curled her pretty eyes until they formed a crescent shape. When will the pill gathering begin? Xiao Yang's eyes swept over the large hall as he randomly asked. Tomorrow. So soon? Xiao Yang was startled. It was unexpected that time had passed so quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was about time for the pill gathering to begin. If you did not wake yourself up today, I would have entered and woken you up a little later, the little fairy doctor informed him with a smile. Xiao Yang tilted his head. He immediately found a little and said, "I still have one medicinal ingredient that I have yet to obtain. It looks like I will need to think of a way to get my hands on it today." Ever since Xiao Yang had obtained the 2 medicinal ingredients from the alchemist trade fair back then, he had yet to obtain any news about the last 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine until now. The pill gathering was fast approaching. This caused Xiao Yang to panic a little. After all, if he lacked this key ingredient, it would be impossible for him to truly refine the medicinal pill. There is no need for you to worry about medicinal ingredients. The door of the hall was suddenly pushed open while Xiao Yang was frowning. Immediately, Yi Zhong, Xin Lan, and Qian Huizanja walked in. Yi Zhong smiled as he walked to Xiao Yang's side. He flicked his hand and a couple of jade boxes, with cold air seeping from them, appeared on the table in front of him. He said, "There are 2 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine and a blood essence demon fruit here. Adding them to the medicinal ingredients you already have, you will coincidentally have 2 full sets. Even if you fail once during the refinement, you will still have a second chance." Xiao Yang was startled when he heard this. He hurriedly grabbed a jade box and opened its cover. He did indeed see a jade-green emerald-like tree branch lying inside it. Dense life force spread out from it, giving one a relaxed and happy feeling. It is indeed the 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine. How did you obtain these things? Xiao Yan's face revealed his joy before he immediately asked somewhat uncertainly. These things were not ordinary items. Even with the collection of the Yi clan, the clan would not be able to take them out. However, there was suddenly 2 10,000-year-old green spiritual vine, and 1 blood essence demon fruit. This was a little strange. These were not obtained by us. All I did was mention to an elder from the pill tower that you needed these medicinal pills. They took the initiative to deliver these medicinal ingredients on the second day. Yizhong smiled as he explained what happened. All eyes would truly focus on Holy Pill City today. Everyone across the Central Plains would focus their eyes here, awaiting to see who would be able to stand out among the alchemist geniuses from all over the Do-Chi continent. The champion would undoubtedly be a child blessed by the heavens. Every champion of the pill gathering would leave behind a well-known reputation in the Do-Chi continent's history, without exception. Hence, the value of the pill gathering had been magnified by many times. Whoever could become the final champion would definitely be able to add a mark to the history of the Do-Chi continent in the future. That glory was enough to cause anyone to become crazy about. After all, who alive wished to be common? Creak. A door to a room within the pill tower was suddenly opened. At the same time, a skinny figure slowly stepped out of it. After which, he appeared in front of the eyes of the little fairy doctors group, already waiting outside. Today, Xiao Yan was wearing a purple-colored alchemist robe that the pill tower had specifically gave him. There was a tier badge that the pill tower had issued on his chest. On the badge were 7 purple gold stars that were emitting bright lusters. This clothing was the most ceremonious clothes that Xiao Yan had worn in many years. From this, one could understand the position of the pill gathering in the hearts of the alchemists. A smile flashed across the little fairy doctor's eyes as she studied Xiao Yan. He appeared a little handsome, as well as free and easy in his alchemist robes. This was the first time that she had seen Xiao Yang wearing such a formal outfit. However, it needed to be said that the current Xiao Yang looked really good. Xiao Yang gently arranged his clothes. After which, he glanced at the little fairy doctor and the rest. He smiled and said, "Let's go." He took the lead to shift his footsteps after he spoke and walked out of the large hall. After which, the little fairy doctor and the rest wisely smiled and swiftly followed. The pill gathering was the most noble gathering in the hearts of alchemists. Today, the gathering many alchemists admired and had gone crazy for finally parted its curtains. Xiao Yang had waited 3 years for this day. The eastern wind had arrived. It was time to flow with the wind. The location of pill gathering was in the northern part of the inner region. It had already been filled by a terrifying crowd of people for a few days. Hence, by the time Xiao Yang's group had arrived, they only saw a densely packed, endless sea of human heads. An earth-shaking noise charged to the sky. After which, it transformed into a terrifying sonic wave that spread apart. One was able to clearly hear it within a 50-kilometer radius. Xiao Yang's group flashed and appeared on top of some buildings. Their eyes looked around them. Only then did they discover that this place was an enormous 10,000-foot large square. The air above this open ground had many stone platforms suspended in it. The stone platforms had a faint light spreading out from them. From the looks of it, the platforms appeared quite mysterious. Those stone platforms are the final seats of the competitors. Yizhong pointed at the stone platforms floating in the air as he laughed. They were the focus of tens of thousands of eyes. The final seats. Xiao Yang lifted his eyebrows when he heard this. The pill gathering is an extremely grand event. It is impossible for everyone to participate in this gathering to possess the qualification to step onto those platforms. Before entering the competition ground, there are, strictly speaking, 2 selection hurdles. Yizhong smiled. After which, he pointed out an enormous square. He asked, "Do you see that deep grey-colored space there?" Xiao Yang's eyes followed the direction Yizhong was pointing and did indeed see a patch of deep grey space. When he looked carefully, he finally discovered that this space had been forcefully distorted and formed by someone. The interior of the distorted space was filled with a kind of deep grey vapor that could block one's sight. The basic requirement for one to participate in the pill gathering is for one to reach the Tier 5 alchemist level. That deep grey-colored space is the first hurdle. It is also known as the Fantasy Realm Hurdle. That deep grey vapor is something created from the body of the magical beast known as the Fantasy Soul Beast. Not only is it able to block one's sight, but it is even able to hinder spiritual perception. Additionally, that space itself has another mystery within it. That space is filled with similar things, causing it to appear just like a maze. One will lose one's sense of direction after entering it and end up lost within. Those who fail to walk out of it within the allocated time will lose the right to participate in the competition. Yizhong smiled as he explained the first hurdle. Xiao Yan slowly nodded. A strange expression flashed across his eyes. This pill-gathering selection methods were extraordinary. Once one passes through this environmental hurdle, one possesses the qualification to enter the pill realm. Yizhong's expression had clearly become a lot more serious when he mentioned the pill realm. Pill realm. I mentioned to you some days ago that all the competitors will enter a strange place after the pill gathering begins. That strange place is the pill realm. Yizhong nodded and slowly explained, the pill realm is a space. It is rumored that an elite Doxing from the pill tower created it long ago. However, for some reason, the pill realm gradually became ruined. However, the pill realm is definitely a treasure ground that a countless number of alchemists dream of. There are tons of natural treasures and rare medicinal ingredients that one would have difficulty finding in the outside world there. The alchemists who have the qualification to enter it will be given a list. The list will record some rare medicinal ingredients. All of you will need to rely on your own abilities to obtain all of the medicinal ingredients within the pill realm. Only then can you exchange them for a spatial stone at the exit area. After that, you can leave the pill realm and participate in the final competition. The stone platforms in the sky are there for the people who have successfully completed this final hurdle. Not everyone has the qualification to step into them. This open ground became much quieter after the gong appeared. Innumerable eyes emitted a swoosh sound as they paused on the towering stone stage on the eastern side of the square. That place would be the spot where the upper echelons of the pill tower would appear. Wave after wave of the sound of rushing wind suddenly appeared soon after the gong was rang. Immediately, the space above the stone stage slightly distorted. Over 10 figures slowly appeared there. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the dozen-plus human figures. After which, they paused on the 3 human figures in the middle. Among the 3 of them, Xiao Yan had already seen one of the giant heads of the pill tower, Xian Kongzi. On his left and right sides were 2 existences that he could not detect any aura from. The old man on the left had dark skin. His face was tensed up, giving him a stern, no-joke feeling. His eyes were just like bolts of lightning, piercing one's soul to the point where it felt painful. The one on the right caused Xiao Yang to feel extremely surprised, because she was a beautiful woman in a cheongsam. Although Xiao Yang was certain that she was not younger than Xian Kongzi and the other man, her appearance was similar to that of a 30-year-old woman. Her expression was indifferent, containing a faint charm that had been deposited over the years. It was the first time that Xiao Yang had seen the dark, old man and that beautiful woman. However, from the way these 2 appeared beside Xian Kongzi, it was obvious that these 2 should be the other 2 giant heads of the pill tower. The entire crowd had become much quieter following the appearance of these 3 people. The endless humans turned their gazes, which contained all sorts of emotion, to these 3 people. The 3 great heads of the pill tower. Forget about the Central Plains. These names were considered truly renowned across the entire Dochi continent. The 3 of them were usually existences that existed in legend. Now that they had revealed themselves, many people were in disbelief. The old Mi Xian Kong Zi shall represent the pill tower here, by welcoming all the alchemists who have come here. During the time that follows, this place shall be a stage to display your skill. A white-haired Xian Kong Zi slowly stepped forward. His warm voice clearly sounded beside everyone's ears. The open ground was completely silent. Regardless of how rebellious or fierce one was, one could only control himself at this moment. No one dared to test these people even a little. After all, the 3 people on the stone stage were not far from peak existences on this continent. As long as one passes these 3 selections, the last one standing will be the champion of this pill gathering. Xian Kongzi looked at the sea of people that had formed a ripple due to the excitement of the word champion. He involuntarily smiled and said, the champion this time around will not only be able to obtain the position of the potential successor of the pill tower's giant head, but will also be able to obtain a scroll containing a soul training method from ancient times. It will only be a matter of time for him or her to advance to 8th or 9th tier. Clamor. Xian Kongzi's words had just sounded when the densely packed sea of people immediately let out a soul-stirring roar. The eyes of a countless number of alchemists had turned red at this moment. Tier 8. Tier 9. This legendary level appeared to be as far from them as the heavens and the earth. If they were to obtain that ancient soul training method, this gap would undoubtedly be pulled closer. This possessed a fatal allure to all alchemists. Even Xiao Yang was unable to ignore this kind of attraction. After Xian Kongzi uttered those words, his breathing had quietly become a lot rougher. He clearly understood just how rare and precious a soul training method of the ancient times was. It would not be overboard to describe that kind of treasure as priceless. I must make an attempt for this champion position no matter what. Xiao Yan tightly clenched his fist. A heat flashed across his dark black eyes. He was unconcerned about the status of the potential to be a giant head successor. However, this soul training method was something that he could not afford to easily ignore, because he clearly understood that if he wished to become a Tier 9 alchemist, the soul training method was something that he must not lack. Therefore, no matter what, he would have to put in all his effort just for this scroll of spiritual training alone. Xian Kongzi looked at the eyes below, which had suddenly become blood red, from the tall stage. He slightly smiled, looked at the sky before finally waving his sleeves. An invisible ripple spread, striking empty space and forming waves of long gong sounds. Time is up. The competitors who are Tier 5 and above, please enter the first hurdle, the Soul Fantasy Realm. Xian Kongzi's finger suddenly pointed to the enormous square. The deep grey-colored space swiftly twisted, forming parts of a strange world and giving it a profound appearance. Bang! Xian Kongzi's voice had just sounded when numerous human figures suddenly rushed out of the endless sea of people. They acted like locusts as they rushed to the sky from all directions. After which, all of them entered the distorted space. Xiao Yang inhaled a deep breath of air as he watched the human figures entering the distorted space like a storm. He slowly stepped forward. Do your best. Xiao Yang smiled when he heard the cheer from the little fairy doctors group. After which, he suddenly stomped on the ground. His body transformed into a black figure that rushed into the deep grey, distorted space, without any hesitation in front of many gazes. The intense competition of the pill gathering had officially begun at this moment. Xian Kongzi on the tall stage nodded as he watched the human figures entering the fantasy realm like locusts in transit. Both of his hands were inserted into his sleeves as he faintly said, "The pill gathering this time around has become a little interesting. It is unexpected that even some famous old fellows have also come. The 3000 burning flame is far from what an ordinary heavenly flame can compare with. It is quite tempting to these people. Naturally, they would want to come and join in the fun." That dark-skinned, old man beside Xian Kongzi raised his eyebrows. His stern lightning bolt-like eyes swept over the human figures rushing into the fantasy realm hurdle as he commented. The waves behind push away those at the front. Some of the members from the younger generation are not weaker than them. Even if they participate, it is likely that they will only end up with ashen faces. The Cheongsam-clad, pretty woman by the side smiled as she added her thoughts. Xian Kongzi grinned and nodded. He fondled his beard and said, "The younger generation this time has a number of outstanding people. However, the thing I am most curious about is just what extent will Xiao Yang reach." Xiao Yang? Yao Chen's disciple. The dark-skinned, old man was startled. His eyes immediately glanced at the pretty woman by his side. Yao Chen. The pretty woman was a little startled. She had been in a retreat during these years. Other than important matters like sealing the 3000 burning flames, she would usually not show herself. One could say that she was the one who kept the lowest profile among the 3 giant heads of the Pill Tower. Even some people who had just entered the Pill Tower for a short while might not even be aware of her existence. Many people thought that there had not been any woman giant heads in the history of the Pill Tower. However, only those with experience were aware that the first woman giant head of the Pill Tower had already appeared before Cao Ying. However, she was much older than Cao Ying. This mysterious, pretty woman was once considered a truly renowned person across the Do-Chi continent. Her name was not the least bit weaker than the other 2 giant heads. Although she had been in a retreat during these years, and had not been involved in any matters, her eyes revealed an unknown glint within them when she heard of this distant name that she had difficulty forgetting. Based on what Xiao Yang said, Yao Chen has currently landed in the hands of the Hall of Souls. Once the pill gathering is over, we might perhaps help this old fellow if it is possible. After all, no matter what, he did our Pill Tower a great favor back then, Xian Kongzi slowly informed them. The face of the pretty woman slightly changed upon hearing what had happened. Her rippleless old well-like mentality had begun to fluctuate. Her face sank as she said, "Who asked that old fellow to act great back then?" He knew that the Hall of Souls had targeted him, yet he still dared to roam around. He deserves this kind of fate. You may speak in such an easy matter, but you don't know that you are the one who is most worried about that old fellow. You have quietly dispatched quite a number of people to inquire about Yao Chen during these years. The 2 of us know, Xian Kongzi sighed. Who cares if he has died? The pretty woman's eyebrows became vertical, causing her to appear mighty even without being angry. However, these words appeared to lack any backing when they landed in the ears of Xian Kongzi and the other person. However, the 2 of them clearly understood her stubborn character. They could only helplessly shake their heads. The many elders from the Pill Tower looked at each other after the argument of these 3. All of them wisely chose to act like they heard nothing. Let me meet this little fellow once the pill gathering is over. I have heard that the members of the Hall of Souls are also planning on capturing him. No matter what, he is also his disciple. The deep grey vapor clearly suppressed one's soul. This was something Xiao Yang had heard Yizhong mention before. Hence, he did not feel too surprised. This kind of suppression also had a limit. With the current power of his soul, he was easily able to take note of the situation around despite the hindrance of the vapor. However, the distance his spiritual strength could reach had been greatly reduced. The spreading of Xiao Yang's spiritual strength allowed him to sense the ripples formed by the surrounding deep grey vapor. There should be new competitors continuously entering. This is a little similar to the energy tide in the Heavenly Eye mountain range, however, that formed naturally while this place is a maze created from using human strength to distort space. This method to trap a person is even more troublesome to deal with. Xiao Yang revealed an expression contemplation. This place should have been formed by the experts from the Pill Tower. They probably used a great amount of strength to distort space. The distorted space was massive. If one were to randomly barge in, one would definitely lose one's sense of direction, or even end up being trapped here. No matter how complicated this fantasy realm hurdle was, it was after all something that was man-made. If one wished to successfully charge out of this area, one would have to clearly identify the traces of spatial distortion within it. As long as one followed the bending pathway formed by the distorted space, one would be able to successfully walk out of this fantasy realm. Of course, this might be easy to explain, but it was quite hard to do. Under this strange permeating vapor, one's sight and spiritual strength were all firmly suppressed. It would be difficult if one wished to clearly identify the complicated spatial traces in this situation, where one was essentially blind, for an ordinary alchemist. Fortunately, Xiao Yang was not in this ordinary category. With the strength of his current soul, even some Tier 7 high-grade alchemists were unable to compare with him. Although the soul was being suppressed due to the grey-colored vapor, it wasn't enough to stop one from dealing with this so-called fantasy realm hurdle. Xiao Yang faintly smiled upon hearing waves of wind being split apart a short distance away. By relying on his spiritual perception, he watched quite a number of alchemists randomly barge around and finally end up trapping themselves in some distorted space, unable to free themselves. Xiao Yang quietly spread his spiritual strength. He placed both of his hands behind him as his feet gently stepped through empty space. He leisurely followed the route that his spiritual strength had probed and slowly walked forward. Xiao Yang's footsteps gently stepped across some deep grey fog. A thought suddenly flashed in his heart. He raised his heart and looked into the fog a short distance away. He could see waves of ripples suddenly appear at that spot. Immediately, an elderly figure slowly walked closer. Xiao Yang's heart suddenly quivered when he saw the face of that elderly figure. Teacher. Xiao Yang's eyes were startled as he looked at the smiling old man in front of him. That familiar face was Yao Lao, who had been captured by the Hall of Souls. Yao Lao stood a short distance from Xiao Yang and smiled. After which, he beckoned Xiao Yang with his hand. Xiao Yang's foot almost uncontrollably took a step forward as he looked at the friendly and familiar face. A sense of danger suddenly appeared in Xiao Yang's heart as he lifted his foot forward. His foot was also stilled by him. After which, he inhaled a deep breath of air, and his heart recovered its clarity. It's an illusionary figure. The deep regions of this fantasy realm hurdle are able to form illusions, based on what one was thinking in one's heart. Xiao Yang frowned. He looked at that elderly figure. It was a long while later before he softly sighed. With a wave of his sleeve, a wind surged out, and scattered the elderly figure. The hidden spatial fold behind the figure was revealed. A strange, black vapor faintly permeated these spatial folds. This fantasy realm hurdle is indeed risky. Xiao Yang's eyes focused on the strange, black vapor. He understood that the appearance of the illusionary figure should be related to this thing. The caution in Xiao Yang's heart was once again raised as he shook his head. He could sense that this place was not far from the exit of the fantasy realm. His spiritual strength spread, and once again figured found the spatial trace in front of him. He moved his feet and slowly walked into the distance. Xiao Yang saw quite a number of illusions of people he had thought of during his journey, Zun Cai Lin, Xiao Zhon, Yun Yun, etc. They were all people he had deep memories of. However, with the lesson he had learned from the last time, Xiao Yang no longer felt the least bit absent-minded because of the appearance of these illusory figures this time around. No matter how vivid those illusory figures were, he only felt a little nostalgic as he looked at them before waving his sleeves, turning around, and continuing on. Numerous illusions appeared along the way. However, they did not cause Xiao Yang to slow. Following his firm footsteps, the permeating deep grey, dense fog in front of him suddenly became fainter around half an hour later. Immediately, a 10-foot-large distorted black hole appeared a short distance in front of him. This was the spatial tunnel that led to the pill realm. Xiao Ying's silver teeth gently rubbed against each other like wild cats, as she spoke with some anger within her heart. Xiao Yan was naturally unaware of what Xiao Ying was thinking in her heart. After sitting down, he turned his head to the spatial tunnel a short distance away. There was an elder in ordinary clothes in front of the tunnel. A completely black, giant turtle shell made out of metal was under his body. That old man sat on this turtle shell. From the badge on the chest of this elder, he was clearly a member of the Pill Tower. Xiao Yang's eyes swept over this laser-looking elder, and his heart trembled, because he was completely unable to see through the strength of this elder on the turtle. This is indeed the Pill Tower. It is really a place with many hidden individuals full of power. Xiao Yang withdrew his gaze when that man, who had been in a false sleep condition, suddenly opened his eyes. Xiao Yang could sense the man's spiritual strength, lingering in a spot between his eyebrows, shake a little when his eyes were opened. The old man glanced indifferently at Xiao Yang. After which, he scanned over the rest. His voice appeared a little weak as he said, "It's about time. You can enter the pill realm. Everyone who enters will have to come to me and receive a medicinal list task, the map of the pill realm, and a spatial rock. All of you must find the medicinal ingredients on the medicinal list. Only by gathering all the medicinal ingredients on the list will one be able to successfully pass this hurdle. I shall not talk more about the use of the map. The exit point of the pill realm is on it. You can all hurry there once you have gathered all the medicinal ingredients. As for the spatial rock, it is used to safeguard your life. If you end up in a situation where your life is at risk, you can shatter the spatial rock. After which, you will automatically be sent out of the pill realm. However, you will lose your qualification to continue the competition when you shatter the spatial rock. Do you understand?" The old man slowly raised his eyes near the end. Everyone slightly nodded upon hearing his explanation. Those who could arrive at this place with such speed were all extraordinary people. They clearly understood that the elder in front of them was not an ordinary old man. A middle-aged man in alchemist robes stood up without any expression soon after the elder on the turtle shell uttered those words. After which, he walked to the front of the man on the turtle shell and received the items. The middle-aged man stepped forward and walked to the slowly rotating spatial tunnel before swiftly disappearing. Some people began to step forward one after another after the middle-aged man. They received their items before entering that spatial tunnel in a quick and orderly fashion. Xiao Yang was not in a hurry to enter. Instead, he observed them with cold eyes. From what this old man on a turtle had said, the pill realm was clearly not going to be friendly ground. However, it was only normal if one thought about it. This place would eliminate those outstanding alchemists who had come from all over the Do-Chi continent. No one would believe him if it was not going to be dangerous. He would allow those fellows in front to go on the front lines in this kind of place. After around 100 people entered the spatial tunnel, Xiao Ying and Song Qing also stood up. They received the things from the old man on the turtle shell before entering the tunnel. The witch turned her head and ruthlessly glared at Xiao Yang before she entered, causing Xiao Yang to feel quite helpless. Xiao Yang finally stood up soon after Xiao Ying's group entered. He was just about to move when a ripple appeared in the space behind him. A young figure slowly appeared. Xiao Yang also sensed something when this figure entered. He turned his head and a dense chill immediately flashed across his dark black eyes, because this figure was not just anyone. Instead, it was the person who had formed a conflict with Xiao Yang driving the alchemist trade fair back then, and subsequently sold information about Xiao Yang to old Mu Jiyu, Chen Xian. Chen Xian was still wearing white clothes. His hand was carrying a purple-colored metal fan. At a glance, he looked quite good. However, his chest had an additional tier badge at this moment. 7 purple gold stars were flickering brightly on the badge. Clearly, this fellow was a tier 7 middle-grade alchemist grandmaster. Chen Xian shifted his eyes after his entrance. He swept them over the place before pausing on Xiao Yang a short distance in front of him. He was initially a little startled before a mocking smile lifted onto his face. The purple-colored metal fan in his hand was knocked against his palm as Chen Xian walked toward the spatial tunnel. When he walked by Xiao Yang, he paused his footstep and softly laughed. "Xiao Yang, right? It is unexpected that your life is so strong. Even by acting personally, that person was unable to take this little life of yours." Xiao Yang's eyes landed on the sinister-looking Chen Xian in front of him. The corner of his mouth revealed a smile that contained a deeper meaning. He softly said, "Young sect leader Chen Xian. It is best that you hide yourself well after entering the pill realm. Otherwise, the profound Xian sect will be without a successor. In desolate plains, the land was a yellowish color. Occasionally, there were some green decorations around, emitting a little life force. There would sometimes be some small magical beasts rushing around the plains. They produced a wisp of yellow smoke before disappearing into the distance. The desolate plains' silence continued for a period of time, before the empty space suddenly shook. Immediately, a figure rushed out of the space. The figure which had just rushed out from the space was naturally Xiao Yan, who had entered the spatial tunnel. Xiao Yan's eyes were slightly startled when the desolate scene in front of him appeared within his eyes. A thought passed through his mind and his body remained suspended in the sky. He did not recklessly land on the ground. This is the pill realm, huh? Xiao Yan raised his eyes and looked around him. This place was exceptionally full of energy. However, there seemed to be a violent seed within this energy. Could it be that this was due to the pill realm being damaged? Xiao Yan's hand grabbed at the empty space in front of him as he pondered the problem. Creating a realm was a godly strength that only elite Doshings possessed. Of course, even if one managed to successfully create a realm, it would require one to constantly maintain it. Otherwise, the realm would gradually decline. Xiao Yan mused for a moment before tossing aside the thought in his heart. He clenched his hand and a goat skin appeared in it. This was the medicinal list that the old man riding the turtle shell had given him before he had entered the tunnel. He needed to gather all of the natural treasure recorded on it in order to successfully pass this hurdle. This tactic of the pill tower is not bad. They have turned all of the competitors into their laborers to search for medicinal ingredients. Xiao Yan helplessly shook his head. His eyes returned to the goatskin paper. A moment later, his eyebrows were involuntarily knit together. There were not many natural treasures written on the goatskin. Only 3 things were written on it. However, these 3 types of medicinal ingredients caused him to feel the onset of a headache. Dragon core 9 leaves mushroom, demon blood spiritual fruit pulp, ascending immortal grass. This sudden unexpected change caused the alchemist to be slightly shocked. However, he did not panic. With a cold cry, a powerful Do-Chi pillar shot out and violently struck the enormous python's head. That mighty force caused a bang to appear on the head of the giant python before causing it to explode. That alchemist revealed a proud expression on his face after killing the enormous python. However, before he could sigh in relief, his eyes suddenly narrowed. A ferocious laugh sounded beside his ear. "Brat, seeing that you have some skill, it is better for you to get lost." The heart of that alchemist was shocked when the ferocious laughter started. Before he could recover, a steel rod ruthlessly landed on his chest. A terrifying force sent him flying away like a cannonball. After which, he rubbed across the ground for nearly 100 meters before coming to a slow stop. That alchemist had just stabilized his body when a white glow was emitted from his palm. The space around him became distorted before absorbing him into it. From the looks of it, the spatial stone in his hand had been shattered. This sudden change had caused quite a number of people present to be shocked. Immediately, numerous gazes looked at the person who had attacked them. The one who had attacked them was a large man in alchemist robes. His face was filled with flesh. At a glance, he did not appear to be a good person. There was a 10-foot-long steel rod across his shoulders. Some fresh blood adhered to the surface of the metal rod. He has fled quick. The large man carrying a metal rod watched the spot where the alchemist had disappeared from earlier, and he involuntarily parted his mouth into a smile. After which, a fierce glint flashed across his eyes as he once again turned to the others. Seeing this fellow with strong flesh all over his face staring over, some of the other competitors' expressions changed. A caution rose within their hearts. Some of them even took out their weapons. In this place, they clearly understood that all the other participants were their competitors. They would gain an additional chance if they could finish even one of them off. That large man lifted his mouth in disdain when he saw them pull out their weapons. The metal rod containing traces of blood in his hand was violently waved. After which, he sent the enormous python flying. When that enormous python was sent away, a depression immediately appeared under the sand dunes. A deep yellow rhizome, the size of a child's head, appeared in the depression in front of everyone's eyes. Ground Rehania glutinosa. Surprise flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes when he saw the deep yellow rhizome deep underground. This ground Rehania glutinosa was a kind of rare medicinal ingredient that was formed by gathering the strength of the land. If one's energy started a violent uprising when one was training, this ground Rehania glutinosa, as well as some additional medicinal ingredients, could be refined into a pill with the ability to suppress the uprising. This person might appear rash, but he is extremely observant. He could tell that this place possessed the ground Rehania glutinosa likely, because he had recognized that ground yellow python. Xiao Yan glanced at the enormous python. Any area where the ground yellow python appeared would have the ground Rehania glutinosa. However, this ground yellow python was not much different from an ordinary python. If one was inexperienced, one would likely find it difficult to identify it. A wild joy flashed across the eyes of the large man when he saw the size of that ground Rehania glutinosa. He grabbed it and pulled it out. After which, he parted his mouth into a smile. His gaze swept over the people with heated eyes, and his face sank. He coldly cried out, "Get lost if you do not wish to die." The remaining dozen-plus alchemists' expressions changed when they heard his cold cry. However, after witnessing the fierceness of the large man earlier, they did not dare to say anything more. The ruthlessness of this person's attack was deeply imprinted in their minds. After hesitating for a moment, the remaining alchemists finally chose to withdraw. Although the ground Rehania glutinosa was rare, it would not be worthwhile to lose their right to compete because of it. The disdain on the face of the large man became even denser as he watched these people withdraw as they were told. Among these people, there were at least two who were only a little weaker than his strength at the peak of the Do Huang class. However, they did not possess a fierceness or boldness like him. Therefore, these cowardly mice could only leave empty-handed. The world was always a place where the strong ate the weak. If one did not possess any courage, how would one be able to succeed and stand above others? A group of trash. The large man curled his mouth. After which, a bloodthirsty expression flashed across the face of the large man. He was just about to store the ground Rehania glutinosa into his storage ring when a suction force suddenly appeared and snatched the ground Rehania glutinosa away. "Damn it, who dares to touch the things that belong to this father of yours?" A tyrannical expression immediately flashed across the face of the large man when the ground Rehania glutinosa left his hand. He suddenly raised his head, only to see a young figure suspended in the air without support. "Get lost." Xiao Yan in the sky indifferently glanced at the large man. He was not the least bit courteous. The tactics of this person allowed Xiao Yan to understand that he was not a good person. One must use vicious tactics when dealing with an evil person. Hence, Xiao Yan's words left no room for discussion. The expression of the large man changed when he saw that Xiao Yan was able to remain in the air without any support. He clearly understood just what kind of being was able to stay afloat in the air. This meant that this young fellow was at the very least an elite dozome. An expert of this level was not someone the large man could afford to offend. He grit his teeth while feeling a great unwillingness within his heart. However, this large man was not someone who did not recognize the situation. He was able to snatch things from others and others would naturally be able to snatch his things. If one were act kindly in this pill realm, it was likely that one would be defrauded to the point where one would not even be left with one's clothes. The large man furiously stared at Xiao Yang, but did not dare to say much. His eyes paused on the 1,000-year-old ground Rehania glutinosa in Xiao Yang's hands. He carried a stomach full of anger as he transformed into a blurry shadow, rushing to the distant mountain range. Xiao Yang's face did not reveal any ripple as he watched the large man go. He randomly put this 1,000-year-old ground Rehania glutinosa in his storage ring after the man had disappeared into the distance. His body slowly landed in the deep hole in the ground. His eyes contained some anticipation as he looked at the bottom of the deep pit. Although the 1,000-year-old ground Rehania glutinosa was precious, it was not great enough to get Xiao Yang to pay too much attention to it. The thing that truly interested him was something that lay even deeper underground. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.